So thank you everyone for that quick introduction. So I'll introduce myself as well. So my name is Dixon. I'll be your trainer for the entire HL7 and Mirth Connect training. So I'm working as technical architect and lead in many of different HL7 projects. And I'm I like teaching, so I've been teaching about HL7 FHIR and Mirth Connect from the past 7 years online, but specifically online from the past 7 years. But mostly I was working on integration space for the past 14 years as of now. So I worked on various standards like HL7, CCDs, FHIR, IHE, and a little bit here and there on X12 as well. But predominantly right now I'm working through HL7, FHIR, and CCD implementations as of now. And I have my hands-on experience with various integration engines like Rhapsody, Mirth Connect, Integration Buddy, Connector, Ensemble, a little bit on few other small interface engines like Qvera, Iguana, and all. But predominantly, I'm working in Mirth Connect space, specifically from the past 4 or 5 years. So as I said, I've been training resources for the past 7 years online, specifically through SV Institute, and it has been going great. So let's quickly take a look at what are we going to see today, specifically in today's session, and we'll try to understand what would be our flow uh, in context of today's session. And at the end of today's session, I will cover on what would be the course content that we are going to cover, and see what all topics we are going to see through in terms of HL7 and Mirth. So this training is divided to 2 sections. First part would be covering about HL7 specifically. We'll take a deep dive into what is a message structure, and we'll talk about what are the different types of message types that we have in terms of HL7. And then second part would be completely about Mirth Connect, where we'll be putting into action on what we have learned about HL7 and implement an HL7 interface using an integration engine. We'll be specifically using Mirth Connect because that's the only free openware software that we have, and which is also one of the most famous top 5 softwares that is used in healthcare integration space. So by the end of today's session, we will go ahead and take a look at where do we hear this term called HL7, what is hospital workflow. We'll talk about what is HL7 specifically. We'll talk about what is an interface. We'll talk about how the name HL7 has arrived and why do we have this name HL7. And then we'll talk about what is the role of HL7 in interfaces, specifically in healthcare related interface implementations. We'll talk about what is interoperability at a very high level, uh, and we'll talk about the HL7 message structure. We'll understand how the HL7 message structure looks like, how to read an HL7 message. Okay. I would request all of them to be on mute. In case if you have any question, you can raise your hand or make a note of the question. At the end of the session, we are going to have a questionnaire time where we'll be talking about what are the questions that we have, and I'll answer each of those questions for sure. If you feel that you are not understanding anything, or if you feel that it is necessary for you to ask the question right away, just raise your hand or unmute yourself and you can interrupt me. But if it can wait, if you feel that you can wait, then I would recommend to wait till the end of the session. So we'll be having 1 hour session every day, 45 minutes for the training to go on, and last 10 to 15 minutes we'll spend on questions to be answered. All right, so let us quickly go through a few general terms that are necessary to be known in terms of healthcare. Few of us are from healthcare background, few of us are very new to healthcare. So we'll be using these terms a lot while we go through the training. We'll be using these acronyms a lot so that we won't be in vain. So let's go through these terms and understand them and where they are used, what they are, and put them into learning as and when we go through the training. So PM or PMS is a practice management system. This is a front-end software used by the receptionist or the front desk staff in the hospitals. Basically, this software is used to capture demographic information like patient name, date of birth, gender, um, address information, marital status, race, ethnicity, language informations, and all. And that is used to save the data in that particular software. And this software is also used to schedule the appointments for various entities like operation theaters, doctors, labs, and many more. So basically, as this is used to manage the practice, it is called as practice management system. Then we have EHR, which is electronic health record. And this is a software used by the doctor specifically and specifically used on the clinical side. This is used to store the patient demographic information along with, I mean, whatever is stored in PM will be sent over to EHR, and EHR will store demographic information, appointment information, but mostly it is used to store the clinical data like allergies, what allergies patient has, what are the immunizations that he has taken, what medications patients are following, and what are the diagnosis that the patient has, what procedures they are going through. So all the clinical data will be stored in this EHR application. So these are the two main applications that you'll be seeing in the hospital space when we talk about hospital workflow. Then we have HIS. HIS is called Health Information System. You have many acronyms to that. You can call it as HMIS, HIMS, some call it as HMS. But basically all of them stands for or comes down to one point, that it is health information system. Uh, it is a combined console of PM and EHR. All the modules related to PM, all the modules related to each EHR are present within the same application. And that is called as an HIS application. Then we have LIS and RIS. LIS and RIS are lab information system and radiology information system. So these applications are specifically used in the laboratory systems, whether it is radiology lab or the generic lab, you'll be using this application there. Then you have few terminologies like ICD, CPT. ICD is International Classification of Diseases. This is nothing but a library or a book you can think, which will contain list of all the diseases that we have in the world, and each of the disease is identified with a unique code or unique ID. So International Classification of Diseases will tell us what code is designated for each of these IDs. Similarly, CPT is also a library, but this is on a different angle. Um, this is called as current procedural terminology. Once a patient is diagnosed with a certain disease, we know that they will be treated with certain treatment, right? So what treatment is being given to the patient will be has to be indicated using these CPT codes. Then we have CCD, HI, and IHE. So CCD and IHE are standards alongside HL7 V2 that we are going to see today. So we'll talk more about CCDs and IHEs at the end of the training. I will spare one session where we will be talking about what are the other standards of healthcare that we have, which are very much used in today's industry. And HI is also a concept called Health Information Exchange, which is used to exchange the data between different hospitals. And that is where CCDs and IHs come into play. So we'll talk about these three aspects at the end of the training. So that's about few general terms. So let's take a look at hospital workflow. So whatever we are going to learn about HL7, basically that comes down to a point and that what goes on in the hospital. So I would say that hospital workflow is a blueprint for us for all the future sessions that we are going to take a look at. So let's quickly run through the hospital workflow. A few of us already know it. A few of us may be very new to it, as I said. And just to recap, if you know, and if you do not know, just follow through. Let's follow through the hospital workflow. As I said, this will be the blueprint for our HL7 training going forward. So whenever we visit the hospital, we see that a patient visits the hospital and he visits the receptionist first, right? And they will ask them, are you here for the first time? Or have you been to the hospital earlier? If they are here for the first time, then they will take all the demographic information from the patient and they will capture all those details and save those details in the PM system, right? And that data will be sent over to the provider system. So basically, whatever basic details that we capture from the patient are called as demographics of the patient. So once the demographic information is captured, that information is sent over to the EHR system, which is residing at doctor's desk. Then obviously receptionist would ask the doctor whether you want appointment with so and so doctor or why they are here for. Then they will schedule the appointment for that specific doctor, and that appointment information will also go to the doctor's EHR system, so the doctor would know what all appointments he has for that specific day. Okay. So after that, once an appointment is scheduled, patient will go ahead and meet the doctor. So this particular scenario where patient is meeting the doctor and discussing about his problem is called as an encounter. So wherever you hear this term called encounter, keep that in mind that it is an interaction that is happening between the doctor and the patient discussing about their problems. So during the encounter, doctor will try to go ahead and diagnose the patient. If he's able to diagnose just by looking at the symptoms, well and good, but mostly that's not the case, right? They will go ahead and try to place few lab orders to determine what problem the patient has, and those orders will be sent to the lab system, which is nothing but the LIS system. So lab people will receive that order and they will collect the sample from the patient, and they will generate the results and send it back to the doctors, who are called as providers. And after that, providers will go ahead and take a look at deeper look at the results that they have received, and they will analyze what is the problem, and accordingly they will treat the patient. And once the patient is treated, patient will be leaving the hospital, but apparently um, they will go ahead and send all the charges that are related to whatever transactions that have happened. It may be charges related to lab, it may be charges related to the provider specific treatment they have given. So all of these charges will be sent back to the receptionist, and the receptionist will go ahead and generate a claim for that and sends it to the insurance company. Right? That's where the patient workflow or patient cycle ends within the hospital workflow. And this is specifically to an outpatient workflow that we talked about, right? Patient walks in, talks about his problem, takes the medicine and leaves. All right. If we go about an inpatient workflow, then it gets a little deeper. Patient gets admitted to the hospital, what he may have day-to-day treatment on what is going on. There will be regular captures of his vitals, and there will be a lot many things that will be going on if the patient is joined as an inpatient into the hospital. But this brief workflow is for us to get an idea of what is going on right from the point where the patient arrives at the hospital and till the point he leaves. So that there are a lot of things that are going on during this phase, and we'll see or we'll break down this entire workflow into different sections down the line. So now let us take a look at what is the problem that we have in healthcare and why HL7 has come into play. So before that, before looking at this slide and taking a deeper look at it, I would like to give a small metaphor so that we can relate and understand this particular slide effectively. Let's say there are three different people from three different countries, and they want to talk to each other. Let's say we have one person from US, one from India, one from China. And if these three people have to talk to each other back in 1970s or 1960s or 1980s, how can they talk to each other? Because each of them may not know their regional languages. So if the Indian guy has to talk to Chinese guy, he has to learn Chinese, or the Chinese guy has to learn Indian regional language, Hindi, and then they can communicate with each other, right? And if the US guy has to talk with Indian guy, then same principle has to be followed in order to go ahead and talk to that particular person. So here they have to end up in learning multiple languages in order to communicate with specific person. So that's when we see that English has emerged as a common medium of communication so that people can talk to each other with one common language, right? And people started talking in English, and they don't need to learn other person's regional language to understand that language and also to communicate with the other person, right? So basically, we had a standard in terms of what language we have to learn or what language we have to speak. Similarly, in terms of healthcare, when the data is being transmitted from one system to another, uh, there is some sort of missing standard that we don't have. Let's see how that problem has arisen. So every application that we are dealing with, we spoke about PM system, we spoke about EHR system, we spoke about LI system, right? Whenever a patient gets registered in the PM system, every application has its own backend database where the data is actually stored. And let's say patient gets registered in the PM system, data is saved in the PM system, and the database of the PM system has its own architecture, which is nothing but its own language. Similarly, when we talk about EHR is another application that we'll be using, and EHR has its own database and has its own architecture, which is nothing but its own language. So when a patient gets registered in the PM system, the data has to flow from PM system to the EHR system. And there should be a seamless integration between PM to EHR. So the integration engineers on the PM side uh, will go ahead and try to talk to the guys on the EHR side. Or if there is only one integration engineer, he has to have a deeper understanding of both databases, which is nothing but knowing both the languages, so that he can go and extract the data whenever a patient gets registered and then send that data to the EHR system. Similarly, when a doctor is placing the order in the EHR system, that data has to be sent over from the EHR system to the lab database so that lab people can take a look at that particular uh, order information in their lab system, right? So there is no common methodology of how to exchange the data that is going to be saved in each one of these databases. So that's where HL7 has come into play. So what happens when there is HL7? What happens is HL7 has become the common medium of communication like English. So I would term it as language for some time. It's not a language actually. It is an HL7. It is a data standard. But let's say that it's a language for meanwhile for our better understanding. So what happens is when the data gets saved into the PM system, this data is converted into HL7, and that HL7 will be sent over to the electronic health record or LIS system. So as HL7 is common medium of communication, everyone is deemed to understand HL7 so that they don't need to understand the architecture or design of the other system's database at all. All that they need to know is how data is structured in terms of HL7. So once they receive the data in HL7 format, they will be able to go ahead and understand that, interpret that, and save the data to the database. So that way, HL7 has greatly solved the problem of interoperability or exchange of data. How and what it did is it cuts down the time of implementation. Let's take the same example that we have discussed earlier. When we have to learn one language, it will take a lot of time. If you have to learn multiple languages of 10 different countries, how much time it would take? It would take a lot and lot of time just for us to learn and enable communication with them, right? Similarly, if there is no HL7, if these two systems have to integrate with each other, and if these two systems have to integrate with each other, it would take a lot of time to discuss how to exchange the data, what mechanisms we have to follow, what format we have to follow, and all. But with HL7, as the format is predefined, as the language is common, everyone can understand HL7, so they don't need to explicitly talk about what format we are sending, where exactly we are sending the data, how we are sending the data, and all. So the amount of communication relatively decreases a lot if an interface without HL7 takes an year, an interface with HL7 takes just 1 month. right? So there is a drastic cut down of how HL7 has helped in terms of integrating faster, right? So now let's see what is an interface. We have talked about HL7, but I was saying that there is an interface between PM, EHR, EHR to lab and all. But let's see what is an interface. So interface is nothing but a bridge which will enable or help us to communicate between two different applications or help two different applications to exchange the data or talk to each other. And as HL7 is the common medium of communication, this applications will talk to each other through HL7. It doesn't matter what database the source system is on. So PM may be using a SQL DB, electronic health record may be using a flat file database, but the main medium of communication will be through HL7, right? And that happens through a bridge, which we call as an interface. So a brief what is HL7? So it was established back in 1987 as a standard medium of communication to exchange the data between two different applications. And every healthcare system is following this as a standard practice and standard uh, structure or medium of communication. How did we arrive at this name? So basically, HL7 name has come out or come into play with the concept of open system interconnect model. We'll talk about that in the next slide in detail. HL7 is being used in more than 28 countries today. US is the first or far most well-developed healthcare system, which is using HL7 a lot. But alongside, we have other countries like Australia, New Zealand, India, UAE, Middle East countries who are using HL7 a lot today. So let's quickly take a look at why did we get this name HL7? How did we arrive at this name HL7? So there is this concept called as open system interconnect. This is a beautiful model. When I heard this for the first time, I was really amazed to see such huge thing going on behind the scenes. I'll quickly brief on this, but if you're new to this, just go ahead and read about OSI. It's really fascinating. Uh, right now, I'm presenting my screen, and you are able to see that on your system, right? How is that possible? So what happens behind the scene? Let's assume that on your screen, behind your screen, there are 6 more layers, right? The first topmost layer that you're seeing is your application layer. And behind that, there are 6 more layers called presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical layers. Apparently, whatever I am presenting here is being converted into physical packets through these 7 layers. And these packets are traveling through our Ethernet cable and they are reaching you. And those packets are reaching your physical layer and being reverse interpreted and being presented on your application layer. Okay, so how it happens and all is it is completely dependent upon what happens at each of these layers, how data is broken down, converted into packets and sequenced, and then transacted to you. So this is a very good model, but what we are specifically interested in is the 7th layer. So this is the application layer is the 7th layer. And as we are dealing with healthcare data, our HL7 messages or HL7 structuring and reading of messages, everything happens in the 7th layer of this OSI model. So that's how we ended up in name level 7. As we are specifically dealing with healthcare data, we call it as health level 7. Okay, so health level 7 is an organization which is actually maintaining all the healthcare related data standards for exchanging data between different healthcare industries, entities. So a quick overview of HL7, like any other language, HL7 has its own grammar and syntax. HL7 has many versions. 2.3 is one of the most famous version, which is a massive hit because it solved a lot of integration problems back in 1990s. It basically has 12 chapters and 5 apprentices. And we had future other versions as well, which we'll talk about in next slide. So HL7 as a standard, data standard or language, whatever you call it as for now, it has more than 50 data types, 80 message types, and 86 event types. You may not understand very deep if you're new to HL7 about these three terminologies. Don't worry, we'll take a look at what these are in the upcoming slides. Let's quickly take a look at the standards of HL7. So if you talk about standards of HL7, we have many standards that were released. 2.3 predominantly released in 1997. Though HL7 started in 1980s to solve the integration problems, an official version was released in 2.3 in 1997, and it was a very big hit because of its solutions that it provided. Later, we had subsequent releases 2.3.1, 2.4, 2.5. But the major shift, or I wouldn't say shift, but the major release was considered as version 3, which was released in 2005. So version 3 was not very much welcomed by the industry for many reasons, because two of them to point specifically are: one is it is tough to learn because version 3 is a revamp of the entire structure of HL7 messaging standard. It is not like HL7 v2. It doesn't look like HL7 v2. So a lot of technical knowledge or technical know-how was necessary to understand HL7 v3. So a lot of HL7, a lot of technical know-how, a lot of knowledge was necessary to understand the structure itself. And then implementation was also tough in terms of HL7 v3. That is one of the reasons why HL7 v3 was not very much welcomed by the industry. Apart from that, there is another reason why I think so, and why many people think so, why it did not get a huge success is the value that it is adding. Let's say we have a mobile application and we receive an upgrade notification. We usually upgrade it, right? Why do we upgrade it? So that we can make use of the new features, new values that it is going to give, right? Similarly, whenever we want to go ahead and upgrade from lower version to higher versions of HL7 standard, obviously it has to add some sort of value, right? So HL7 version 3 was no different in terms of adding value to an existing interface. Even if you move from HL7 v2 version 2 to version 3, there is no massive change or massive value addition. So that is one of the main reasons is what I feel why HL7 v3 was not very much welcomed by the industry, because everything is going smooth with v2. Why do we need to upgrade to v3? Apparently, I haven't worked much on v3. I know the model, but I did not get deeper into it because I did not get my hands on to work on v3 with any of the implementations. But as part of v3, there is a subsequent standard called, not subsequent, but a subset standard called a CDA, which was released. CDA is a massive hit. It really solved one of the greatest problems that we had of how do we exchange documents between different hospitals, which is released as part of HL7 v3. So clinical document architecture is what we call it as. So that is one of the successful standard out there, which is very much used in today's healthcare data exchanges. Next, we have FHIR. So a lot of people ask me about FHIR. What is FHIR? If you're new to HL7, really, we don't understand what FHIR is, right? So HL7 v2, v3, all are used based on legacy technologies or legacy methodologies of how do we exchange the data. Apparently, the industry requirements on integrations are growing, specifically in terms of mobile integration space, right? HL7 v2 and v3 are not designed for that particular problem to be solved. So that's where FHIR has come into play. So FHIR is the latest standard, which was released in 2010. It is also managed and maintained by HL7 organization itself, alongside v2, v3, CDA, and other standards that we have. Um, so one question that usually comes up is, should we learn FHIR or HL7 v2? Apparently, FHIR is still developing. It will take a lot of time for it to mature. So until then, v2 is the solution that we have. v2 is the go-to solution that will be there for implementations. And there are hundreds and thousands of interfaces that are already developed on v2 for the past 30 years. So v2 has to be learned. FHIR has to be learned down the line. But predominantly, v2 is the one which is being learned, being implemented in real-time implementations right now. So If you want to learn FHIR, you can learn, but that is going to be an implementation for the future. V2 is not going to go anywhere. Both of them will coexist for a very long time, at least for the next 7 to 10 years. FHIR is being designed to replace V2 down the line, but not in the near future, definitely. So what are the advantages of having HL7? So it will help us to go ahead and it has the ability to share the medical data, demographic data, billing data, and enable the HL7 applications, enabled applications to talk to each other. Data transfer is in the form of small units of messages. No special tools are required except for one integration engine, which can go ahead and do the work for you. Code is in ASCII format, which means it is human readable. Even if you don't understand the structure, if you take a deeper look at the HL7 message, you'll be able to at least figure out few of the data elements, that this is name, this is date of birth, this is gender information and all. You may not be able to read the structure exactly because you may be new to HL7, but at least you will be able to point them out that this is the demographic data element that we are looking at. It can work on any OS because, as I said, it works on the principle of OSI, which is the seventh layer of the seventh application layer, which is present in all the OS systems. So it is independent of the operating system. So why do we need a standard? So very important question. Why do we need a standard? I think we have answered that in the past slides that we have looked at. Standards will help us to cut down a lot many things, specifically time of implementation, specifically not to reinvent the wheel again and again, right? For example, if you want to integrate a demographic interface between two different systems, now if we have a standard, we know that that standard is a reference point and we can implement it quickly. If we do not know, then we have to start the research from the base to understand how to exchange the data, what format we have to use. If we are using a specific format, we have to define the entire structure of that format, of how it has to look like. All of that work will be cut down if we have a standard, right? As we have HL7 standard now, all that I need to do is generate an HL7 ADT message to exchange a demographic info, right? We don't need to get deeper into what structure we have to follow. All of those things are answered already, and we don't need to reinvent that wheel of how to exchange the data. So that's how standards are really helpful. It will help us to quickly share the data between medical entities, and that will in turn help us to go ahead and get the money, which is the final most factor that insurance and hospitals needed. And greater safety for the patient, obviously, because data is accurate. Data is very much precisely transacted between different systems without the fear of somebody making some mistake when they enter in the paper, right? And utmost quality is maintained when this is when standards are followed. So let us quickly take a look at what is the basic principle of how HL7 messaging works. HL7 works on the principle of trigger events. So what is a trigger event? Apparently, when we looked at the hospital workflow, let's go back to the hospital workflow. When we looked at the hospital workflow, there are series of events that are happening, right? When you take a look at the first thing that happens when the patient meets the receptionist and talks to them, patient will go ahead and ask them, or receptionist will ask the patient whether he had for the first time, and they will go ahead and capture the demographic information of the patient if he's coming for the first time and save that information, right? The moment they save that information, that concludes an event. Registering a patient event has been concluded. So that event, if that event demands the data to be sent from PM system to EHR system, then such kind of events are called as trigger events. Okay, so whenever there is an event that is happening in the hospital during the entire hospital workflow, which we'll explore more in the upcoming slides and tomorrow. But if there is an event that is happening and if that event's related data has to be sent from one system to another, such events are called as trigger events. Okay, and HL7's base principle is those events that are happening within the hospital space or hospital workflow. So when you look at the hospital scale, the entire hospital is divided into 5 sections. You uh, basically, categorizing them broadly. We'll have registrations, we'll have appointments, we'll have labs, we'll have charges, we'll have pharmacies and insurances. So we'll explore more about these categories, how they are represented in terms of HL7, what indications or what message types we have, what event types we have, and all. We'll take a deeper look at it tomorrow to understand about these specific sections. But today we'll try to understand what is the structure of HL7 message. That is what we are going to uh, start with and take a look at that. So let's take a look at the anatomy of the HL7 message. So to understand the HL7 message structure, I would like to give you a small example or small metaphor so that we can understand it better. Let's say that there are two different people in a house and or two or three different people in the house, and they have a rack in the house, right? So within the rack, they have different shelves. Each shelf is dedicated for putting certain kinds of material. So first shelf is dedicated for clothes, second shelf is dedicated for books, third one is also for certain other kinds of books and all. Now, the first shelf where you put the clothes have been divided into different sections. First compartment is for t-shirts, second compartment is for trousers, third is for shirts, and so on. Now, what happens if they do not have any shirt, or if let's say that they don't have any of the shirts, they just have t-shirts and trousers. So this compartment which is dedicated for shirts will be empty because that compartment is dedicated for shirts. Just because this is empty, they would not go ahead and put the trousers here because there is another dedicated compartment for trousers. Now, let's say that one of the person is going on a vacation, and after going out of the house to a certain distance, he realized that he did not get his t-shirt or trouser. So immediately he calls the other person at home and tells that, hey, you know what, can you get me my t-shirt? Then the other person who is at home goes to the rack, opens the door, accesses the first shelf, goes to the first compartment, gets the t-shirt and gives it to the other guy who is who is going out on a vacation. Now, if you exchange, if you take a deeper look at what dialogue has been exchanged between them, he just said, "Can you get me the t-shirt?" Right? But he did not tell where the t-shirt is, because everyone who is at home knows that there is knows the structure, knows the where the t-shirt is. So they know that they have to go to the rack, access the first shelf, access the first compartment, and get the t-shirt from there, right? Because each of them know. HL7 also works on very similar principle. Okay. Even in terms of HL7, you know where the data elements are. You know how the structure is. You know where to pick up certain kind of data element from. Okay. So let's take a look at the structure of the HL7 message, which we can compare it to this particular rack example that we have seen. So if you look at the anatomy of the HL7 message, we have HL7 message at the top. Within a message, you will see that we have segments. Within the segments, you have fields. And within the fields, you have components, and within the components, you have something called as subcomponents. So if you look at that message, any HL7 message, all the shelves that we have can be compared to segments of the HL7 message structure. And all the compartments can be called as fields. Fields can be further divided into components, and components can be further divided into subcomponents. How they are divided and all, we'll take a look at that later down the line with an example. But at a very high level, we'll take a look at the structure at least till the field level today. Okay. So as I said earlier, like any other any other language, HL7 has its own grammatical syntax. If we talk about English as a language, we have full stop, we have comma, we have exclamation mark, we have question mark. So these things indicate what kind of, or these things will help you how to read a how to read a paragraph, how to read any letter that you get and all, right? Similarly, in order to read an HL7 message, we need to know what are the punctuations that are used in terms of HL7 message structure. So let's take a look at them. First one is segment terminator. This can be compared to full stop of the English language. So as the full stop ends a certain sentence. Similarly, every segment terminator will conclude or ends a certain segment in the HL7 message structure. Field separator can be compared to the space between two words, how two words are separated with each other with the help of a space, right? Similarly, in HL7 segment, two different fields are separated with the help of this symbol called as pipe. Okay, this is called as field separator and the symbol is called as pipe, a vertical line, and that will separate two different elements or two different fields. Now within fields, we know that we have segment components, right? Two components are separated with the help of the symbol called as caret. Then we have ampersand, which is going to separate two different subcomponents. We'll look at this with an example. We have a tilde, which is called as repetition separator. This is also this also has a special role. We'll talk about this tilde with an example as well. And then we have escape sequence or escape character, which will help us to escape the immediate next character following this backslash. So we'll talk about this with an example as well down the line as and when we go through the training. But most importantly, we need to know about this pipe and cap or caret symbol for now, because those are the things that will help us to uh, read the HL7 thoroughly and immediately. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is the HL7 message structure. So every HL7 message has many segments is what I said, right? You can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different segments here. And these segments will help us to go ahead and read and understand and also exchange data between two different applications. Every segment has its own name. This acronym that you're seeing at the beginning will help us to understand what kind of data is transacted in that particular segment. Okay, for example, if you talk about PID segment that we are seeing here, this is called as this PID stands for patient identification. So as the name itself suggests, this particular segment will have information which will help us to identify the patient. So this segment will carry the information about patient name, his date of birth, his gender, what is his SSN number, what is his a unique patient MRN number, phone number, and lot many other things can be carried within PID segment. Okay, similarly, PV1 is patient visit segment, which will have visit related information, is which location he's visiting, which doctor he's visiting, and lot many other information will be present in the PV1 segment. Okay, we'll specifically focus on the segment and its structure to understand and read through the HL7 message structure. So let me go ahead and paste this particular HL7 message in a notepad, and we'll take a look at that in detail. So I set the language to JavaScript because it will, this is not JavaScript, but I set it to JavaScript in Notepad++ so that it adds some colors and makes it beautiful and readable. So that's the only reason I added. So just don't be under assumption that this is JavaScript. So if you look at the segment PID specifically, what did we read in the previous slide? We know that every HL7 message has segments. So we are seeing 5 different segments here. And every segment can be divided into fields, right? So how are fields separated from each other? Each field is separated with the help of a pipe. So we can see that we have a pipe here. We have a pipe here. So whatever is held between two pipes is called as field. So this is one field. This is the second field. This is the third field, or basically this is another field, this is another field, this is another field. So whatever is held between two pipes, whatever data is held between two pipes is called as one field. And each of these fields have a sequencing number. Okay, so if you talk about that sequence, this is called as field number 1, this is called as field number 2, this is called as field number 3, this is called as field number 4, 5, and so on. In that way, you may have 30 fields, you may have 35 fields, you may have 10 fields, depending on the type of the segment that you're dealing with. This is PID segment. PID segment has 40 fields. Okay, EVN segment may have only 10 fields. So how many number of fields are present is purely based on the segment that we are dealing with, which is not a very big deal. We don't need to remember how many fields each segment has. That is impossible. All that we need to know is every segment will not have fixed number of fields. It may change. And every field has a field position, which we sequence it right starting from number one. So this is called, for if you look at EVN segment, this is field number one, this is field number two, three, four, five. So now if you want to read the HL7 message, so if you want to read the HL7 message, all that we have to do is we have to call out the segment name. So if I want to say, where am I sending the patient name? Uh, in the HL7 message, then I would say I'm sending it in PID segment because I know that that is a segment that is used for identifying the patient information. But in PID segment, which field has the name? So I will read through the HL7 message. This is field number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I see that in field number 5, there is patient name. So I would say field number 5. All right. And specifically, if you talk about patient last name and all, we will take a look at that tomorrow on how to differentiate last name, first name, middle initial, and so on. But the way we read the HL7 message is based on the segment name and the field number. Okay, so that's how you go ahead and see. And if you look at PID 7, this is called PID 7. This is for patient name, and you have PID 7 for patient DOB, date of birth. And then you have PID 8, which is dedicated for patient's uh, gender value, and so on. So there are many more data elements that can be transacted within PID segment, but each field has its own dedicated placeholder. PID 5 will always carry patient name. Let's say that we don't have patient's date of birth information. Then we leave that particular field as blank when sending the data to some other person. Patient gets registered, but patient did not give the date of birth information. Then when the HL7 message gets generated, that PID 7 will be blank because there is no information in the data that has been saved in the PM system. Always remember one thing, HL7 is a reactive message, which means it is generated based on an action that is happening in the front end system. All right, patient gets registered, HL7 message gets generated. Doctor is placing the order, HL7 message gets generated. So it is basically a reflection of what is happening in the uh, real-time workflows or real-time events that are happening within the hospital. So the data that we see in the HL7 message is always something that is entered by someone else in the applications. All right. So this is how we read the HL7 message using the segment name and the field number or the field sequence. Tomorrow, we'll explore more on the structure of the HL7 message. We'll take a look at how do we read components, what is the structure of these components and all. We'll also talk about repetitions and many more things. Okay, so training and certification HL7. So anyone who wants to study self, they can learn. But seminars and webinars like this or trainings like this will help you to learn more about HL7 message. Who can train in HL7 message? So all the healthcare people who are playing any role in healthcare can learn HL7, but intermediate and experts, basics can be learned by everyone, but intermediary and expert level is required for people who are specifically working in HL7 integrations. And to summarize what we have seen today, we understood that HL7 is mandatory for interoperability. Interoperability is nothing but when two apps can talk to each other. We call it as interoperability. Apparently, as we have seen, HL7 is the only methodology that we have today to exchange the data based on the events that are happening in the real-time world. Of course, FHIR is there, but as I said, it has to evolve a lot. But HL7 V2 is the one that is predominantly used in today's industry. Okay, so we conclude today's session there. So I'll open up for questions. Any questions we have from today's session before we go through the entire course content?
Can we have, sorry, this is event. Can we have the slides, copy of the slides you're showing? Is that possible? Or
Yes. So what we'll do is we'll be creating a Google Drive folder and uploading all the material, all the hands-on required things onto that particular drive. And whoever has enrolled for the training will be given access to that. And you guys can go ahead and use them for your learning.
So for the hands-on, can we do it on our own pace? Like, will we get an account for an extended period?
Uh, I mean, you mean to say account for or access to Google Drive?
No, for the
For the hands-on, in
hands-on.
terms of, oh yeah, for the hands-on, you'll be installing Mirth Connect on your own system. So you will have access to that. You can work on Mirth integration engine and HL7 messages in your own system. So we are
Oh,
not
okay,
creating any account for that. So it's
okay.
non-independent.
I thought we are gonna have some kind of cloud servers or something which will be provided for as a sandbox for us to practice it.
No, you'll be installing it on your own system and working on that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi Dixon. So is it like mandatory that we have SQL, the knowledge about, when we are, doing HL7 integration or something?
Yes, I mean basics are necessary to deal with one specific type of interfaces. When you are given a data source, if you have to generate an HL7 message from the data source, then we will need to know SQL so that you can write those queries to extract the data and generate HL7 message out of that. So basics,
And
at least for the training, we need to know the basics of SQL, um, how to write select command, how to write an update command. That is enough for specifically for this training. And you also need to know how to write joins. So because we'll be joining multiple tables to extract the data and generate an HL7 message out of that. So that basics are required.
Okay, thank you, Dixon.
So, this is Pransan.
Hey, hi.
Yes, sir. That's when you say that if we don't know basic SQL, that course won't be if a factor. Is that what you're saying?
No. If you're trying to learn only HL7, so for developers who want to develop an integration or become developers in integration space, then they need to know SQL. But people who wants to pursue in other verticals like product manager, project managers, business analyst, and all, they don't need to know deeper into SQL. So SQL is needed only if you are planning to get into development role specifically. But our training is going to cover uh, how do you um, integrate two different systems from the scratch. So one of the parts would need SQL to be known.
Okay. Because
do we
I'm
need any
trying to
other
get.
language apart from SQL
No,
for?
no,
Okay.
no, because I will be teaching JavaScript, which is needed. I'll be teaching you
Okay.
E4X, which is needed from the basic. So all that we need is, even if you don't know SQL, for whoever doesn't know SQL, you can start from today. It is very easy, same like our normal English language. You just need to know select, update commands, and joins. These are the three topics that you have to look at to understand or to write the queries down the line. We have almost 2 weeks time to start Mirth Connect integration engines. So if you are new to SQL, you can go ahead and take this time to learn about that SQL. By the time we are at that point, you will be having some knowledge on the SQL. We don't need that right away. So we have 2 to 2.5 weeks of time. Yeah,
So,
Farai, you have a
for a guy
question.
like me, hello.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For a guy like me that targeting to be an integration device, engineer because I work for Philips, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the patient monitoring system, which is a hemodynamic system,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to get into integration as far as like a for to be like a field engineer and the integration device integrations, and kind of like try to be getting into with Epic, and I'm trying to see if that course is it's program is a good one for me. That's why
Yep. Yep.
I'm trying
So
to get in
yeah,
touch with the provider of that program.
sure, sure. I mean, yeah, as you have time, you can definitely go ahead and learn these three things. It's very easy. You can spend some time and learn about it, and then you can explore more down the line.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you.
yep. Hey, Farai, yeah, you have a question.
Yes. Do you have a syllabus somewhere? Do you
Yes,
have a
I will be.
website where?
I'll take you
Okay.
through that now in a bit. So let me go through that. Let me continue with the questions after telling you the syllabus and the plan that we have, so that few of your questions may be answered. Uh, so what
And
exactly
also
we are?
one more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to know the syllabus, and then second of all, this sounds like. Do you have other courses? And if you do, what sequence would you recommend we take the courses?
Yes, I mean I teach fire as well. So we have fire batch that would go on, but I would recommend learning HL7 V2 and Mirth first and then jumping into fire. Even in fire, we'll be talking about the data standards of fire, how do we exchange the data and all. And then we will be talking about Mirth there as well. But Mirth there is not as comprehensive as HL7 V2 course. In fire, we'll be talking about Mirth in a very confined manner, which is specific to fire.
Okay. Thank you. That's the questions I have. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, so let us quickly run through the course content. So whatever we have seen today is for first 1.5 or 90-minute session, which covered basics about HL7. But later down the line, from tomorrow, we are going to take a look at what trigger events we have, what are message types in HL7 message structure. We'll be jumping specifically deeper into each of the message types. We'll be talking about ATA04. We'll be talking about SIU message types, DFT message types, ORM message type, ORU, MDM, and ACK, which is nothing but acknowledgement message types. We'll be talking about these message types in detail to understand what are the data elements that we have, what segments are involved, where exactly do you send what kind of data in each one of these message structures. So we'll be taking a deeper look at that, and we'll be exploring all of these 6, 7 different message types, which are the most frequent message types that are used in today's world. So 70% of the interfaces that you have there will be based on ADTs and ORMs and ORU, but we'll be covering other things like SIU, DFT, MDM, and acknowledgement messages as well. Okay, and then we'll be talking about the data types, which is nothing but our then we'll be talking about, I'll be sharing this with you all, and Srinivas will also be sending an email to you all, but for you to have some understanding on that. We'll be talking more about data types. Someone was asking in the chat that whether this course will help in certification. Absolutely. That's the reason we are going to cover data types as well, which is one of the main important topics for understanding HL7 message structure, and also important topic for certification. So I'll talk about around 30, 35 data types from the 90 data types that we have, so that you would know how to prepare for rest of the data types as well. After data types, we'll be jumping into Mirth Connect integration engine. We'll take a deeper dive into application workflow. What are the components that we have in Mirth Connect? We'll be taking a look at how do you develop a channel using the summary source tab. We'll take a look at what are the important configuration options that we have in while configuring summary, source, and destination tabs in Mirth Connect. We'll be looking at what are variables, what are scripts that we have. We'll be talking about what are message viewing screen. And we'll also talk about what are the various messaging formats that we have in Mirth Connect when the message is transacted from one point to another. Then we will take a look on networking to understand how the data is actually exchanged using Mirth Connect. What all connector options that we have. As we have to exchange the data, we may have to do it using TCP/IP, SFTP, file reader to file writer. So we'll take a look at what all connection models that we have, what are supported by Mirth Connect. And we'll be creating channels individually for each one of these connection models. We'll be developing a channel using folder to folder. We'll be developing a channel using TCP/IP. We'll be developing a channel using database readers. So these are the three specific communication points or connectors that we'll be using to develop the channels specifically. So we'll talk about TCP/IP, as I said, folder to folder. And then we'll be also talking about how to interact with the database and help you to generate or construct an HL7 message from scratch by extracting the data from database and generate an HL7 message. Similarly, we will talk about how do you interpret an HL7 message that you are receiving and write it to the database using Mirth Connect integration engine. And during that course, when we do these exercises, we'll also need to know XML and JavaScripting. So I know most of them do not know JavaScript because we are not from programming background. So we'll be covering those two aspects from the basic so that we'll be knowing how to apply them in Mirth Connect integration engine. Okay, then we will be building our filters and transformations in Mirth Connect using what we have learned in JavaScript and E4X. Okay, after that, we'll have few exercises which I'll be sharing with you guys. You guys can go ahead and write those assessments or assignments and have some hands-on on what we are going through the training. And then we'll have a couple of sessions on training or certification related information. We'll talk about what is conformance. By this time, by the time we complete Mirth Connect, we'll be completing most of the chapter 2, which is one of the books that we need to know about HL7 certification. So I'll brief you on what is the certification syllabus, what books you have to go through or what PDFs you have to go through, and what is the content that is necessary. So we'll be covering the last chapter in HL7 certification phase, which is to go ahead and cover about conformance, profiling and all. So I'll cover that. Then in last 1 or 2 sessions, we'll be talking more about what are the other data standards that we have alongside HL7 v2. So that you guys can have an idea of, in case if you hear other terms like CCDs or FHIR, you'll have some basic idea or basic information about that. And regarding the timings of the session, every day it will be at 7 a.m. Indian time, same like today. But today's first session will be a little bit extended because of introductions and all, which is done for 1.5 hours. But usually on a daily basis, it will be a 1-hour session, 5 days a week. We'll have a 1-hour session every day. 45 to 50 minutes we'll be having the session, and last 10 minutes we'll be spending for questionnaires if you have anything and discuss about those questions. If you have any questions from your projects or from your live experiences, you can definitely bring that up. It will be helpful for many other people. Regarding the demo and free sessions, for today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow, we'll be having the free sessions. You guys can continue to join. But after third session, I think today and tomorrow it's free. From third session or from fourth session, you will be allowed once you are enrolled into the training, and Google Drive access will also be given. Just in case if you are unable to attend the training, don't worry. We'll be recording every day's session and uploading that to the Google Drive, and everyone will be, whoever has enrolled will be given access to that. If you miss on that, you can definitely go through the recording that we have uploaded. It will be uploaded after 3 to 4 hours of the session every day. You can go through that and you can ask me the questions. Now that comes to a point, how do we ask the questions? We'll be creating a WhatsApp group for all the enrolled participants. You can reach out to me directly through that. I'll respond to that as soon as I can. So mostly I respond immediately. Just in case if I'm a little caught up, I will go ahead and respond a little later, but I'll respond for sure on the WhatsApp if you have any questions. So that's how the program is going to be. Any questions? I think we have Murli who has a question. Yeah, Murli, go ahead. Sorry to keep you waiting, Murli. Murli, are you there? Are you talking on mute by any chance? All right, so let's go ahead to.
Sorry, I'll jump on if they are not able to ask. How
Yeah,
long is the class?
it is 1 hour on daily basis.
No, I mean the duration
Okay,
of the.
duration. Good question. So sorry, I missed on that. So we have 6 weeks. It will take around 28 sessions, 28 to 30 sessions to complete the training. So it will take 5 to 6 weeks. Okay, Jitender, yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, hi, Dixon. Thank you. Actually, I want to ask you, like, you are in India or like you are in US? Like the
I'm in
location?
India. I'm in India.
Okay, in Bangalore, correct?
No, I am from Hyderabad.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Dixon. I know it's not a good question. Just
No, that's okay.
curious to know that. Yeah.
No, that's okay. No problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know how this HL7 is actually related to Epic?
Yeah, I mean, Epic, when you want to exchange the data with Epic, Epic has integration with a lot many labs, right? When lab information data or radiology information data has to be exchanged, uh, HL7 is the only mechanism. HL7 messages will be sent out of Epic. HL7 message has to be received into Epic. So Epic has a module called as Bridges, same like Mirth Connect integration engine. Bridges is the module which will actually do the work for you, but Bridges is very limited, is what I heard. I never worked on Epic, so I'm not very sure. But apparently, Bridges is the one which will generate these HL7 messages and send out, or receive the HL7 message and interpret them, and then process it to the Epic system.
Okay.
All right, so I have other questions in the chat. So one of the questions is, will this course help us to get any HL7 certification? So this course, after completing this, you'll be given completion certificate. But if you are talking about HL7 certification from HL7 organization, this course will help you to be a guide and a mentor to understand what all topics we have to go through. We'll be covering 70% of the course syllabus for HL7 certification. Other 30% you have to self-read. And I'll be sharing few sample questions, how to prepare for HL7 certification and all down the line. You can go through those questions if you're planning to attempt for a certification. So to answer that, yes, this course will help you to get certified. But this is a coaching. This course will be a coaching for that. I mean, no training will tell you that after completing the training, you can get certified immediately, right? There is a self preparation that will be necessary for 1-2 months in a deeper manner so that you can attempt for certification. Next question in the chat is about how much knowledge do we need on JavaScript? You don't need anything. If you have time, you can go through that before we start JavaScripting. I think it will take 15 sessions for us to reach a point where we need to learn about JavaScripting. So if you have time, you can go through that. I am going to cover anyways the basics of JavaScript, which is necessary for Mirth Connect. When I say I'm going to teach JavaScript, I'm not going to teach the entire language. I'm going to cover the topic specifically, or things that are needed specifically in terms of Mirth Connect. So I'll be covering from the scratch anyway. But if you want to go through that, you can definitely spend some time on JavaScript as well. And then we have question from Jagdish. I'm in the US. Yeah, it is Monday to Fridays, evening time, evening US time, and Tuesday to Saturday, Indian time morning. Okay, any other questions from anyone else?
Dixon, the last question is like,
Yeah,
how long
Jitendra.
do we have that, do we'll get this Google Drive access? Like, is this for 6 months or is this for 1 year or like? Any idea? Suppose if we complete the
It's
course, like
it's
how?
given for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
So 6 months continuously, you'll have access to that. You can go through these recordings or
Mhm.
videos at any time to better your learning. And after 6 months, it will be withdrawn.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone else?
Hi Dixon, this videos can we download or how? What about the storage that we show Google Drive?
No, you cannot download these videos. They are only view. They are given with view only access. So for you to view it.
Okay, we don't have download option.
No, we don't. We don't give download option.
Any content to given to us or how we can?
Which content?
Course content, course any like what are all subject you daily what explaining, na? Those content.
Yes, that will be shared. I mean, the course content will be shared. The PDFs and material that I am showing on the screen, PPTs and all will be shared with you. So you can download those PDFs and all, but
Okay.
not the videos.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So someone is asking, yeah, Bansari is asking, can we continue with FHIR session that starts on Jan 9th? So we have a batch coming up for FHIR, which is going to start on 9th of January. So yeah, I mean, if you have basic idea about healthcare, of how hospital workflow things are going on and all, yes, absolutely. You can definitely go ahead and take that session in parallel.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from anyone else? Yeah, Jagdish, you have a question?
Yeah, regarding the FHIR, it's an
Mhm.
API, right? So if we don't have any web technology knowledge, is it, can we follow, like, is it easy to understand even we don't have any web application knowledge like API, REST APIs and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I am going to cover basics of REST API and all the web technologies that are necessary to understand FHIR. So to understand more about FHIR, it is more on, first of all, on the standard side, on how do we exchange the data, what format we use. Alongside, we have the second paradigm, which is nothing but understanding REST. So I'll be talking in detail about REST, and we'll be integrating or using a lot of API interactions. We may not have web client in our training, but we will understand at least how the things work behind the scenes when we have a web client like mobile app or something, right? And so I'll be teaching more about those things on how do you structure or create a patient resource, how do you interact with a end repository like Happy FHIR or any other FHIR repository that you have. Yeah, but I'll be teaching from basics about REST and all. Because I mean, we usually, I am also, when I started my learning with HL7, people who worked on HL7 may not be very well aware of the web technologies, right? Because of the limited scope that we have with HL7 V2 integrations. So definitely that difference is covered during that training.
Yeah, because someone who don't have web
Correct.
technology, it's these are all like APIs and RESTful APIs. So we need to just have an idea, and also like how this Mirth interface can communicate via REST APIs. Those are the questions, like how hard to understand.
Correct. Right, absolutely. Yeah, I do understand because I come from the same space. So I'll be covering what is from the basics. When I say from the basics, we'll be talking about what is client server architecture, what is client, what is server, how do they interact with each other, what is API. All of those things are covered during that session.
And somebody actually asked in the chat also, what will be the timing for FHIR sessions?
It will be from, it's it will follow immediately after HL7 session. So 7 to 8 will be uh, HL7 and 8 to 9 will be FHIR. All right. Any other questions from anyone else? Sorry, I just realized that I did not share the screen for sharing the course content. So can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we are able to
Yes,
see that.
yes, we do. Yeah.
You were able to see this when I was going through this one?
Yes.
You were able to. Okay. All right. Then that's fine. I'll be sharing that with you.
And Dixon, since you mentioned that FHIR is is not used by many multiple organizations, so
Mhm.
correct? Like there are only few of the organization they are using currently the FHIR. So is it mandatory to learn, or like it's fine, or it's your only, like it's only the personal interest of candidate?
So if you want to be in healthcare integration space,
Mhm.
today it is not mandatory, but down the line, slowly, if you are being in this space, you are eventually will be pushed either in your role or wherever integration you are working with. Definitely, this requirement will come into play where you have to learn about FHIR.
Okay.
It
Thank you.
eventually becomes important down the line for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in some healthcare, especially in the hospitals, in USA, they are kind of by the end of this year, for especially for meaningful use, they're actually like the government is trying to push towards the FHIR. eh, All the applications has to be in that. So the EHR companies are trying forcing the hospitals to install the FHIR servers.
Oh, okay.
Which government? You're talking about the US government, right?
Yes.
Okay. And one more question, Dixon. You,
Mhm.
your experience was with the US government project, or you also worked on the Indian healthcare sector?
Uh, I I worked on various projects. I worked on US projects for a very long time. I'm working on Indian projects now. I'm working with UAE, Middle Eastern, New Zealand, and Australian projects as well. So it is pretty much scattered between different countries. Yeah.
And Dixon, so in India and all these countries, when you said
Mm,
28 countries use
mm.
HL7, so the HIE hospital information systems that you see in India, are they using using the same standard like HL7 standards that is used in US systems?
I mean, the standards are same. If you use V2, we use FHIR. All the countries that now, for example, if you go to Middle Eastern or India, all the
Right.
healthcare level implementations are going on based on V2 predominantly.
Okay.
And there are FHIR related developments as well. But FHIR related developments are not as much as that you see relatively in terms of V2. V2 is used a lot because it is an established standard already and a foolproof methodology of exchanging data, right? So people are using V2, but FHIR is also slowly coming into place because of the mobile related developments that we have. Specifically in mobile sectors and wearable technologies, FHIR is used a lot. But for hospital data exchanges, lab data exchanges and all, HL7 V2 is used. Any other questions from anyone? Does it answer your question, by the way, Manzari?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much. I just wanted to see what was the difference between, because I predominantly worked only in US, like
Mhm.
various EMRs and various health systems, but in US, I just wanted to see what were the systems that are developed in other countries.
Mhm.
How are they communicating with each other?
Yes, I mean, they are following the footsteps of US, I would say, because US was way more ahead in terms of digital healthcare. So everyone is following pretty much same aspects of how to integrate systems and all. And if you talk about Middle Eastern countries, they are developing their own HIE, every emirate is developing their own HI. Okay, and they are all the hospitals are asked to go ahead and send the data to the Dubai Health Authority, Abu Dhabi
Right.
authorities, central repository, same like our HI concept that we have in the US.
Okay, great. So are you seeing like how Epic is dominating the market, hospital
Of
market
course,
in US?
of
Are you
course.
seeing the same thing that they're extending it worldwide? Or like, as you said, that Dubai has its own
Mhm.
health information or they have their own hospital systems plus HIEs. Same way, India will have their own HIE, but the system,
Right.
the EMR
Mhm.
systems, are they seeing their global worldwide, or you're seeing that each country has its own market and own companies that are developing different EMR systems?
Epic has its dominance all over the world. So, I mean, specifically into big hospitals because of the cost factor and all.
Correct.
If the hospitals are huge and if they can bear it, the preferred choice is Epic, and then Cerner, and then Meditech. That's what I'm seeing all over the world. Epic is predominantly used in the US, Australia, New Zealand, and few European countries. Not even few, specifically in parts of London and all of those areas. Uh, but other systems are there are many other systems in other countries. I would say there are many actually especially in the Middle Eastern countries. There are I don't know the count, but there are many EHR systems which are being used.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dixon.
And what about India, Dixon, since you're working in healthcare
Mhm,
for
mhm.
like
Yeah. So in India, we are apparently India has started incentivizing. I heard that. I'm not very sure. I am yet to go through the documentations and all, but I heard that India is also uh, pushing more on usage of electronic data health exchange. I am working on many projects where India is developing interfaces between hospital systems and lab systems. Not every hospital is electronic today, but down the line we are moving at that pace where every hospital will be asked to go ahead and use an electronic data exchange and have an electronic interfaces between different lab systems and EHR systems. And at the same time, India is also developing something called as Aadhaar number, the Aadhaar number that we have. Using that, you have to generate your unique medical record number. That will be your unique medical record number for I mean, in the entire country. Using that, you will be able to retrieve the data from anywhere for whatever medical history that you had in any one of the hospitals. So there is a huge architecture behind the scenes, which is based on many factors. But to categorize it in India, we have this program called ABA compliant program, where you have to meet the meaningful stages of M1, M2, and M3. In M1, the EHR products or EMR products or HIS products should be able to generate the ABA number in meaningful in M2 stage. Um, all the applications should be able to start exchanging the data between different applications electronically. And in meaningful 3, they should be able to present that data to the patient whenever they want to go ahead and go through it. So HL7 V2 and FHIR both are being used in this particular scope. We are getting there.
And Dixon, just this is getting interesting. Is the government, just like in US government, when Meaningful Full
Mhm.
Use first came out, and they were actually giving incentives to hospitals, physician systems
Right.
to take EMR, are other countries going the same route, like India with the whole ABA compliant program?
Mhm.
Are they giving incentives to, and then a timeline where all the hospital systems should have an electronic record system?
There is no specific timeline as such as of now. It may come in the future. We don't know. Incentivizing and all. I heard that it may start or it has started. I'm not very sure. I cannot comment on that. But yeah, we heard that something of that sort may be coming up in the future, and that will be there for sure. But as of now, there are no tight timelines on this factor that you have to get incentivized, or sorry, you have to have some electronic system by this deadline or something like the one that we had for MU. Such factors are not in place as of now, but they may come up definitely for sure.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you, Dixon.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions from anyone? All right, so I think we are good. Those are some very good questions out there. Thanks everyone for joining today's session. You can continue to join tomorrow as well if you want to know more about HL7. Please drop your phone number and email address in the chat to Srinivas or to the administrator or to me. We'll go ahead and take a look at that and reach out to you guys. Thank you, everyone. You all have a very good day. We'll catch up tomorrow morning at the same time.